Okay, hello everyone. Going live again to answer some of your questions. So, you guys had questions about depression, functional freeze, more relationship questions. So, if you're watching this live and have any questions, let me know. You could just drop them in the chat. And yes, this is live from YouTube. And I'm just gonna wait a couple of seconds and then we'll get started. So again, I have questions about depression, functional freeze, and some relationship questions. Okay, so I'm gonna get started. So maybe I should let that pass. See, this is the thing about going live. Like I would just edit that out. I'm here in the mean streets of Newport Beach. Uh, So anyway, I live close to a fire station. So anyway, hello, we are live and I'm answering your questions. I get questions in my DMs and some of the comments from my post and then sometimes you just email me and so I thought I would answer them here live for you. So let's start with depression. Some of the uh, and they were all pretty much the same, like, "Oh, I feel depressed," but the underlying reason is different for everyone, but it's all interconnected and it's all the same. So, depression, let's cure your depression. Okay, see, again, if I was not live doing this cringy live right now, I would edit that out, but now you get to see all of this cringiness. But anyway, we're gonna get to some really good information. But first of all, so depression, it's totally fine to be depressed. It's fine to have moments of that. It can help you understand where you have blockages. Maybe you have past trauma that you're not willing to look at, or you have a pattern in your life that keeps repeating. Depression is typically focused on or perseverating about something from the past, something unresolved from the past. So, and while it's okay to have episodes like this and understand where it's coming from, because that could lead to a lot of good spiritual, mental, emotional, even like physical, like well-being and upgrading. If we stay stuck in that phase, it could be, it could turn into a stress response, and that could literally shrink your brain. It could like shrink. It's been shown to shrink parts of the hippocampus where memory is stored. So, and I know you've been stressed or just sometimes when you feel overloaded, um, even especially during the holiday season. That's why I really wanted to talk about this. And you're like, I can't remember. That is your hippocampus that's literally under some duress and might be, not to scare you, because even if it does shrink in size, we can reverse that. So, and there's a lot of studies and a lot of research that has shown that now. So, which is great. And also, as you might know, there's a dramatic drop in serotonin and dopamine. And if you're a dopamine or adrenaline junkie, you're chasing that, chasing that, chasing that. And then you get into a depressive state because one, your brain is trying to regulate itself from overstimulating yourself. And so you get this like a dopamine deficiency. And so you want to be able to have your dopamine receptors respond in a natural, healthy way to things as well. So we don't get into those depressive states for no reason, because again, it's very stressful and hard on the body. And that's one of the reasons, like with addicts, yes, like that you see when you see addicts and they look haggard from being on drugs or alcohol or in a stressful relationship. That's not just the substance doing that. That is these deficiencies, these like hormonal and biochemical deficiencies that are creating physical stress. And so we want to stay away from those things long term because they can create brain damage. So the main things that again, it's kind of the brain consciously, subconsciously, and even sometimes unconsciously focused on the past. So we have unprocessed trauma, unprocessed grief. We are missing someone. So it could be from like heartbreak or grief. And again, but that is still focused on the past or what used to be. And or also grief could be like rejection or abandonment, like heartbreak, like I said. um and a lot of that abandonment, rejection type of stuff also loops back to or is correlated with unprocessed trauma from your childhood. So maybe you had some abandonment issues. You may or may not be aware of them. You had abandonment or neglect from your parents, and that could look like maybe your parents were always physically there, but they didn't attend to your emotional needs. They told you to shut up, or like your needs don't matter. They're very like cold, um, unfeeling parents, or you had a type of emotionally immature or narcissistic parent that everything revolved around them. And so it's like if you had any type of need or you were sad, it's like, what, grow up, get over it, please, because everything was about them. So in an adulthood, that could lead to episodic depression, where you attract relationships where you're on this high and everything's great, and then you get abandoned by a partner, and then you fall into that depression again because you're trying to have this unmet need met by someone that can consistently show up for you. So, because a lot of times I'll be talking to my clients and they're like, oh no, I wasn't neglected. My parents were always there. And I'm not talking, yeah, I'm like, yeah, they were physically there, but emotionally they weren't there at all. And everyone, our nervous system and our body and our mind is wired for love and intimacy. But if we weren't shown that when we were children, it's really hard. We struggle with commitment issues, intimacy issues, anxiety around relationships, whether you're just always worried about being abandoned, and then you get very depressed and heartbroken when you do, or you're worried about being abandoned. So it's kind of like, oh, get away from me. Like you have the avoidant response, like this is too much closeness. And then when that person goes away, you get depressed. But a lot of times avoidants numb their depression with another person, with drugs, with they numb with something and they act like it's not an issue. And then they numb so much that they actually believe that they they don't have any feelings about it because they can't identify their feelings, and it eventually creates this like very kind of like persistent like long-term depression and anxiety that's just underneath the surface. It's like having like a low grade infection all the time when avoidant attachment style, when they have all this unprocessed grief and unprocessed trauma around connection and intimacy. It's just like this low grade infection that's there all the time, where they really do want a connection and they really do want a relationship, but then it's just like you're inflaming it's like too much for them. But then they're like, oh, so it's like this push and pull. And you see this with disorganized attachment too, where they're like, come here, love me. And it's like, it feels like anxious attachment. And then if someone gets too close, it's like, oh, so you like the disorganized attachment has both of them. And all of these, except for the secure attachment, um, it can lead to depression when there's a disruption in the relationship that can't be resolved, when there's an unhealthy dynamic. So that can happen. And then so I'm just gonna go through the list of reasons that why people get depressed, but underneath most of them is a sense of, grief and unprocessed trauma. But I wanna start with a common one that's like, I just miss the person that's not in my, because they've died or crossed over. So if that is the case, and this is a little bit like I do. So when I talk to my clients, I do ask them, what is your spiritual orientation? Not what religion you are, not anything like that, but what is your spiritual orientation? Because like life and death has a lot to do with that. And I've had so many clients that are like, oh my God, I have survivor's guilt because I'm still alive, or I miss them. And I truly believe like Earth is a hard place to be. It's ghetto here. And we come here to, do whatever we said we were going to do when we came here, but it sucks. Okay, it's ghetto in these streets. I don't care where you live. It's just hard, like living like an earthly life and having, going through all these life lessons and trauma and healing and upgrading your vibration. If someone's crossed over, you don't they're good. They're chilling, they're, doing their thing. If they were a shitty person, then maybe they're somewhere learning lessons. But from everything I know and believe, it's not something you need to, or they're not like, oh yeah, I wish I was on Earth type of thing. So sometimes, if anything, it could be the opposite, that they're kind of bummed that you're still on Earth, and that's more on the spiritual side of things. But I just wanted to say that it's I think it's important too. And you could ask, especially if you're in touch with this type of stuff, you could ask like, hey, give me a sign. Like, one of my clients do that, and with her mom, who she was very connected to. I feel like her mom was her soulmate in a healthy way, more than anyone else. And so I'm like, what was a thing that you guys would do? And they would like go on a walk, and they would always like reference this certain flower. I'm like, ask her for the flower. And then sure enough, like 2 hours later, she randomly saw that. And I'm like, so there's ways to like get comfort and get reassurance from people that have crossed over. But I always think it's like just being happy for them that they're in a better place. And but you can still miss them, and you could still think about them in a good way and know that they're in a good place. And then when it comes to heartbreak, abandonment, and rejection, so these things are very correlated with trauma, right? So if we're repeating negative, toxic behavior patterns and cycles in our relationship, and it's kind of like, okay, whether you can see them or not, if you're having the same frustration, if you're having the same thing that comes up like, oh, I always date women that this happens, or they have a toxic ex, and like, or their kids do this, or whatever it is, or they're not emotionally available, then that means you're not emotionally available somewhere. There is that type of thing. So it is worth looking into. And it's like, where did this come from? And you could journal about it. I don't ask my clients. I'm not like, when I start working with a client, I'm not, let's go into your childhood. Like, I let it kind of naturally, because we don't need to talk about every aspect of your childhood, but we do need to like pinpoint where this negative cycle came into place, where you are constantly attracting the same dynamic, whether it's in your work, your personal relationships, your family, your romantic relationships, even with friends, right? So let's get to the root of that so we can stop doing that, because that's not the vibe anymore, and it's really frustrating. So, and every time it's kind of, we connect it to some abandonment, some trauma in childhood, some way that the caretaker was treating you that just didn't work for you. And we have to remember, all trauma is you got too much of something or not enough of something or both. So when you have this toxic cycle, let's just take someone that's not emotionally available. You have a relationship with them, you're pursuing them, and then they eventually abandon you. And this keeps happening over and over again. Well, somewhere you probably had a primary caregiver or a parent that could not emotionally show up for you. And maybe you had to perform, or maybe you had to pretend like you didn't have any needs, and then they could kind of show up for you. And then but later on, they would just end up abandoning you, or saying that you're too much or you're not enough. And so you repeat that in adulthood, or you keep finding people like that to repeat that trauma until you realize, okay, I am good enough. I am enough of everything. And I can be available, and I deserve someone that can see all parts of me, that it's not like I don't need to hide. I don't need to have guilt or shame about any part of me, or even just having needs, right? Like, it's okay to have needs. And so in some of these relationships where people get really depressed, it's kind of like, oh, if I wouldn't have done that, no, honey, my love, it's okay for you to have needs. It's perfectly, we all have, in like, we're not like looking to another person to like fulfill every single thing, but it's okay for us to have needs. And, relationships, especially romantic relationships, are showing us how to get our needs met in a lot of ways. And they're also showing us where we have unhealed wounds that we need to look at. So if you're getting really triggered, or you have like a response to someone, that is showing you something about yourself. Yeah, I mean, it's also showing you maybe you have a connection with the person, maybe but they're stimulating something in you that gets to be looked at. Like you get to look at that. And so that's why I'm always saying, like, no matter what, our relationships, they're spiritual teachers. They're teaching us how to be higher and better versions of ourselves. And they're teaching us where, we can look at ourselves and do a little bit more work. So never so it's about going a layer deeper and looking into those things, so we're not just staying at that depressed state. I'm not saying to not, have a day where you're just like, in your whatever sweats and doing your thing and crying it out. I think crying is a really good energy release. I'm just saying, do that, let it out, journal, but don't numb out too much, because numbing out will literally create a feedback loop where it's like, okay, when the brain is like, oh, let's heal this unprocessed trauma that's been in your nervous system for a while, and then you go to a numbing behavior, that's where addictions get created, and just it just festers. It's like keeping trash in your place, and it just gets more and more stinky, and you try to ignore it and it just gets worse and worse. So let's not do that. Let's just get uncomfortable for a second, do the cleaning, and let it be good. Hello. Hi, Kaylin. Thank you so much for covering these topics. Oh, yeah, of course. Let me know if you have any other questions. Um, and then speaking of that, depression can be suppressed anger and just any actually suppressed feeling that you don't want to deal with. And that could be also because you were told to not be angry. You were told to not fill in the blank. And so in adulthood, you don't even, a lot of times I see that that person doesn't even understand that they have this unconscious belief that it's not safe, it's not okay, it's not socially acceptable to be angry, to have feelings outside of being happy or agreeable. So being aware of that and where that came from is important. And again, I do see this a lot in people that had parents where it's like, just be performative, or like just really cold parents where like your needs don't matter type of thing. It just leads to depression sometimes. It's just such a, remember, your brain isn't fully formed until you're 30. So it can set up this like structure and feedback loops that are wired for depression, but you can rewire that. Okay. So don't, when I say these things, I'm just giving you the neuroscience behind it, but it's totally, your brain is so malleable. So it is very, um, I almost wanna say easy, because in the long run, it's like kind of like once you do the work and get in there, it's hard for a moment, but then it gets so much better and you feel so much lighter and you feel so free. Because remember, it isn't happy, it isn't whatever that you want to feel free. You do. Like if you think about anything that you want that amount of money, it's to feel financially free. You want that love, it's to feel like free, like you could just be yourself. You want freedom. And so, when you do this work, yes, it's temporarily uncomfortable, but I say it's easy because then in the long run, you have created so much freedom and you've expanded your capacity for so much more love and peace and joy in your life, literally. So it really is so worth it. Um, Okay. And so yeah, that's the neuroscience and the psychology behind it. So the best thing I think to do is to work with someone um that can really, like a really good coach or a therapist or someone that can help you with this, because you're working with another person. And when you're dealing with something that's about an unmet need from childhood or whatever, like it's good to just have the support of someone. So when I'm working with clients, I'm like, I'm also here just to create a safe space and safe container for you, because some people have gone their whole life and really have not had that from another person. It's a very like transactional relationship, or it's a draining relationship in the way where it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to give all of my energy just to get a little bit of, or it's not a place where you can just totally be yourself. So that's why I advocate therapy, or a program like Al-Anon, or ACA, which is Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunction, where you could really, and those programs are free. So if you like maybe have budget issues, like there's literally, you could go on Spotify and listen to an Al-Anon meeting, because they record some of them, or ACA meetings, and there's just so much like deep. It's kind of intense sometimes, but you can really get a lot of support around these childhood early onset traumas that happen, and get a lot of support. And so I'm always gonna recommend that, right? And so or you could take a course, but, just something where you're getting to the root of what your specific problem is. Not problem, but opportunity for healing. Journaling is always great. And again, if someone could hold you accountable for that, but if you can incorporate journaling into your morning or evening or both routine, where it's kind of like, I am going to process, just like you would take a shower, right? To just kind of like cleanse your physical body. Journaling could just be like, hey, I just want to get it out. I just want to cleanse, and release all of these things. And sometimes with journaling, I hear so much from my clients. I didn't even know that was there. Exactly. So all of these things pop up and like let's say you don't like to journal and type or whatever, you can get out your phone and push record on like the voice recording and just yap and just talk and let it out. It's just about your nervous system creating a release. Again, I compare it to taking a shower or like going to the bathroom. It's kind of like you got to let that stuff go. You're metabolizing so much when you process, your through your mind and subconscious mind. So journal. It's not just like this floofy thing. It really helps. And especially, they've done studies where if you can journal with your, by writing, it's even better because it creates new neural pathways. But even if you're just typing anything, I really want you to do it. Okay. Um, and then also like, watching I provide information like this, even though this is like cringy and uncomfortable for me to do, like I'm doing it to provide information for you guys. So like watching things on YouTube and like taking action. So a lot of good videos and content is going to explain something and then give you some action steps. So take those action steps. We don't want to just consume, right? So we want to consume and metabolize things. So that's how we keep things running. So you're like, okay, yeah, that was a really good video. If there's some good advice attached to that, all of my content has some type of action to take into it. So if you just watch like a few of my reels or TikToks or a video, I always delineate like some things to do. So just take action on one of them and then watch the video again and take an action on another one. And before you know it, you're creating so much good momentum. And then another one is self-compassion practices. And this is so important for depression because I see when you're depressed, a lot of people judge themselves like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. And then hence the numbing out behavior. How about you have a little bit of compassion for yourself? If your friend was feeling this way, what would you do? How would you treat them? If your child was feeling this way, what would you do? How would you treat them? Can you treat yourself like that? And you could take it a layer deeper and do some inner child work. So, what version of you from childhood is feeling sadness, is feeling rejected or abandoned or depressed? Can you go to that inner child and give that inner child a hug? Ask that inner child how they're feeling and like if there's anything that you can do for them and just tend to them like you would a good parent or friend. Like we all need that. A huge part of adulthood is just reparenting yourself. So can you do that for yourself? And I'm not saying to coddle yourself. I'm not saying to make excuses like, oh, I'm depressed. I can't do. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying to give yourself some grace and show yourself some compassion. And that will go a long way. It often shortens the length of depression episode. So that's a very underrated and overlooked thing. It's just like some self-compassion practice. And also, I always take notes, so I'm looking over at my notes. Feeling safety. So where do you feel safe and can you create that for yourself? Sometimes depression is from, again, and it's from childhood, like the neglect, whatever, like that I just went over, not whatever, but you know what I mean? And so where in your life can you find safety and stability? Do you have safe and stable friends? Where and if you don't, let's say you're just starting from scratch and everyone in your life is chaotic and like that's fine. That's good in awareness. So where can you create safety and stability for yourself? Because when you have that foundation, a lot of the like depression, anxiety start to ameliorate. So where can you create safety and stability for yourself? And then you'll notice it's like, okay, I'm going to create that physically. Then I'm going to create that financially. Then I'm going to only attract like these type of friends and these type of relationships. And another thing I tell my clients to do is list what your standards are for anyone in your life, romantic relationships, friends, coworkers, list your standards because when you know them, you start to energetically like radiate that out. And then that's what is reflected back into you. All of a sudden you're attracting higher and better things because you've one brought your standards into your awareness and your conscious mind. And it's kind of like every part of life, you only have what you have because on some level you're willing to settle for that. I know that's hard to hear. You're like, no, I want that. No, but somewhere, and it could be a worthiness thing. And that's why I say to rewire your brain with, okay, if no matter what, even if I have a part of me that thinks I'm not worthy, I always have these type of relationships. I always have X amount of money in my bank account. I always have this type of health. No matter what other, worthiness programming I was told from childhood. That's a really good way to get around things like that and start just attracting higher and better things in your life. Um, and then the last thing I have here is that when people feel depressed, they're like, I don't have any meaning. There's no, okay, so there is. When I hear this, the first thing I know is happening is that you are being called into something that you are supposed to be doing, something that's your purpose. And it could be to start a TikTok account or start that business or start a YouTube channel. There is something that you've been ignoring because you've been told it's not whatever that you need to tap into and start doing right away. And when you start doing that, when you start living your purpose, the resources will come. And I don't care if it's knitting, I don't know, like place mats for the, for when you're eating or whatever, knitting coasters. I'm trying to think of something so random. Okay. Again, this is why this is live. Live Lauren is cringy and has a hard time thinking of things. But anyway, so it doesn't matter and I'm saying it that way because sometimes people are like, oh my God, that's so dumb though. I can't do that. I can't, my music is my passion, but no, that's what you get to do. And it's different for everyone. And you get to follow through on that. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to start this and then I'm going to start. No, procrastination or giving up is just a form of really like self-disrespect. And you get to respect yourself. So you get to follow through on that thing. Your voice gets to be heard. Otherwise, you will get depressed. And I had this before, like once I finally started posting on a consistent basis and answering your questions and getting more clients and everything, it's like if I didn't post or if I wasn't showing, providing some type of value in the form of social media, it would like get to me. And I'm like, wow, because it's like, this is my purpose. And I love helping. I love seeing people upgrade their lives and raise their frequency and just like get rid of fears and overcome whatever they thought they could never overcome. And so you'll start to notice that, like, if you are ignoring your purpose or if you're stepping back from it, and this has happened to me, if you're in a toxic relationship and they're telling you to not focus on that because that's dumb, you'll get depressed. And that's often part of the healing journey is to be like, you know what, this is me and this is what I like. And if you can't support me, if you have friends or anyone that your significant other, anyone that's not supporting you, maybe it's time to let them go. So, and again, upgrade the type of standards you have for who gets to be in your life, because your time and energy is so precious, my love. Okay. So we get to do that. So the next question is about functional freeze. Thank you for asking this, Kaylin, because this is so important. And I haven't gone over this one in a while. So functional freeze is a state that like it's your nervous system attempting to reset itself. So you've come home from work or just been overstimulated, or sometimes this even happens when you're depressed where you're just like frozen and you could literally just be staring at your phone or doing nothing and you're just frozen. And a lot of times people judge themselves for being in this state. Let your nervous system, first of all, like let it do its thing. Now, what we don't want to get into is where it's like chronic, which was part of your question, Kaylin, is like where we're in this chronic state. So this comes from CPTSD. So which is like, it's just basically PTSD is like when a certain event caused trauma, but chronic PTSD is when, you just have this like chronic thing like happening in childhood all the time. And it affects your nervous system and it wires your nervous system to be hypervigilant all the time. Your body and mind are not meant to be hypervigilant all the time. So it will create functional freeze and other diseases in the body, like other illnesses in the body. So, because again, your brain is here and your brain doesn't stop in your skull. It goes all the way down your spine and like into, which is your nervous system. So sometimes like we've all had butterflies in our stomach. That is your brain responding, but you're feeling it in this part of your nervous system. And there's, a lot of neural pathways, neurotransmitters, excuse me, in your gut. It's the second most neurotransmitters are in your gut, besides your brain. So like your nervous system is firing and wiring throughout your entire body. And again, if we stay in these states, your brain can shrink. So it's really important to notice when you're doing it. And when your body is literally trying to be like, hey, I need to regulate myself right now. So we're going to go into functional freeze. And I would say, let it. And then another thing to do is breathe deeply, because often in functional freeze, you're disconnected from your body. So you need to get back into your body. And the best and fastest way to do that is to breathe deeply. It sounds so basic, but people forget to do it. What do people do? They doom scroll, or they numb out with food or alcohol or whatever. And I'm no judgment. That is what happens. But I'm saying if you could just drop in and remember to breathe. And then from there, do a head to toe body scan. So you're breathing deeply, close your eyes, because functional freeze is a form of dissociation. So we got to bring yourself back. So all you want to do is keep breathing deeply and just start at the top of your head. Notice any sensation, then bring your awareness to your eyes and your nose, and just notice every little thing, the back of your head, all the way down. And then you get to your toes and wiggle your toes and then open your eyes. It's a really great way to reset your brain. Another thing, another layer I would add to that is with every exhale, can you exhale out whatever isn't serving you, whatever's stressing you out, and breathe in whatever you want more of. So I'm going to breathe in love, safety, security, peace, those type of things. And I'm going to exhale out any depression or anxiety or anything that's not serving me. A rude comment someone said today, exhale that shit out. Let it go. Release it. Don't keep it stuck in your nervous system. What are more strategies? And then, grounding. So grounding could be yoga. It could be literally walking outside. A lot of people swear to like put your, touch grass, put your feet on the earth. You could do a grounding mat. I just think grounding can come in so many forms, healthy forms. Some people like eat heavy starch things and they don't even know that they're trying to ground. But if you can ground by going on a walk or like physically doing something, even if it's just literally doing a plank, like getting on the floor and doing a plank, because you're bringing so much awareness to your body, you're going to start breathing deeper because you need to supply oxygen to your muscles, and you'll be very aware of what you're doing, because if you're not, like you'll, fall to the ground. So I like to ground in those ways, and just anything that could drop you back into the body, and you're adding movement. Also hydrating is another important thing. And then I also noticed that people that get into functional freeze on a habitual basis are people that give a lot to others. They've been taught maybe from childhood to abandon themselves, and your life is about other people. And actually, that is the only way that you get to be loved or seen or feel safe, is if you just completely take care of other people. So maybe your parents like told you to, like you became a parentified child. So meaning that you took on adult responsibilities at an age that was way too young for you to do that, but your parents put you in that role. Or your parents made you responsible for their feelings. So you felt like you had to always perform or walk on eggshells around a caregiver. And so there was just no space for you to be you. And it was like dangerous for you to be you, have needs like I've mentioned before. And so it's, again, you're in this constant hypervigilant state. And as a child, you don't know that. You're not like, I'm 8 years old and I'm in hypervigilant state. No, but you feel that way. And so your body remembers that. And you remember when you're a child, you're like creating new neural pathways and your brain is forming. So sometimes like just think of it as this is just a bad habit. I got into this bad habit of catering to everyone else and not putting myself first. And now my life is just reflecting that back to me. And I have these, a lot of times there's scarcity thoughts associated with that. And so it's kind of like, I'm going to get out of this scarcity state. And I'm going to realize that life is so abundant, and I'm always taken care of and I'm always provided for. And it's okay for me to relax. It's okay for me to be me. It's okay for me to whatever it is that you need to hear that you weren't told in childhood. So again, to not abandon yourself, to not completely, we want to be of service. We want to, we have goals, and sometimes we need to, especially if you're doing something new, you want to be like, oh, okay, well, like when I was first starting to produce a lot of content in film, you're going to be up, like you're going to burn the midnight oil sometimes. And that's good. That's you pouring into yourself. And it's exciting to have times like that. But what I'm saying is to not completely escape and like abandon yourself for someone else. And, I always tell people recovery is like literally like recovering yourself. These parts of us get buried and we're like, oh my God, the color is, because I've spent so much of my life abandoning myself. And so just coming back to yourself and putting yourself first, you'll want to be in your body, right? And also when we start to integrate these parts of ourselves again, you'd be surprised at like all of a sudden your health gets better. And all of a sudden you just lose weight. Why? Because you're not inflamed and you're in your body. You have dropped into your body, so you're not trying to dissociate all the time. Let me know if you have any other questions around functional freeze. But again, like I was just saying about depression, it comes back to feeling the sense of safety and connection, and first with yourself. We have to have that safety and connection with ourselves. This is the biggest thing. When I teach my course on healing from toxic relationships and narcissistic abuse, it's kind of like, okay, but I want the love of my life and I want them right now. And it's like, you need to, one, feel safe and connected to yourself. And we need to rewire that. And I'm not just saying that as like some floofy, like Hallmark, oh, we need to love ourselves. It's fucking true. Like you really do need to fall in love with yourself. You need to absolutely love being with yourself more than anyone else in the world. And then you will attract that safe, secure, grounded partner that is so like supportive and loving, and where your nervous system feels peaceful because you already feel peaceful with yourself. So people like drop off, but that's good because they weren't safe people. They weren't nurturing to your nervous system or life. So again, if you can create that safety and connection with yourself, one, you'll be so happy. You'll like, I love when I see my clients do this, they just get these bursts of like happiness and joy like from their life, and they're like, oh my God, I just feel so good. And it's not because like I'm in the love bombing phase of a relationship or the honeymoon phase. It's just because I feel so good. I'm doing me, I'm showing up for myself, and it feels amazing, whatever that is. And so like work is going better, my new project, my new Instagram channel is, whatever it is, it feels really good. And then you create safe space, healthy space for the right people to show up in your life. So again, that safety and connection and creating that for yourself, just like you would a child. Really, all this stuff is just healing your inner child. And so creating that safe space for your inner child and who you are now. So yes, let me know if you have any other questions about that. Freedom. That's right. There it is. Yeah, freedom is the biggest thing. Like if you missed it in the beginning, I was saying that anything that you want in life, anything. So it's like, I want a loving relationship. I want X amount of money in my bank account. It is because you want to feel free. What will that dollar amount do? It will create financial freedom. If you have the love, it will create like this type of feeling of love and security and like peace, like that freedom. Within your personal space and your interpersonal space. So the freedom is that essential. So if you could get to that place, and this is another thing I forgot to mention, that's one of my favorite things to do, to rewire your nervous system and also to attract exactly what you want into your life, is to focus and I would do this at least 2 times a day, when you're falling asleep and when you're waking up in the morning, focus all of your energy on whatever it is you want to have in your life. So it's like, oh, okay, I live my life like this. I have this type of partner, and like this is what's in my bank account and how I'm living my life and my career, and how it feels so good. If you could feel into that freedom all the time and then be grateful for that freedom like it's happening now. This has been scientifically proven. This is like just neuroscience. Yes, Neville Goddard was talking about this 100 years ago and helping people instantly change their life 100 years ago. But the principles, now we have the science to back it up. And it's true, like people, I say this all the time, they've had studies where people that perseverate and worry about cancer get cancer, that have no genetic anything predisposition for, they get cancer because they are hyperfixated on it. If you are hyperfixated on whatever it is, you will create that in your life. Whatever you give energy to, you create in your life. So why not create from a very conscious place and be a conscious creator and decide, okay, I'm going to feel into, like, let's take a romantic relationship. Okay, what does that look like? And how it gets specific, like, okay, what are we doing on a Friday night? What kind of conversations are we having? What kind of movies do we watch? I get so specific until you feel like it's real. And if you continue to do that on a regular basis, it will show up in your life, because those are the neurofeedback loops that you've created. And that's like literally the energy you're projecting out. Whatever energy you're projecting out, you get back. And if it's something you don't like, take responsibility for it and shift it, because you have that much power. And that's the other thing. Every diet industry, every whatever beauty, they don't want you to know that. But you are so powerful. Your mind is so powerful. I've seen it so many times. Like, I'll give someone a technique and it's like sometimes within hours, sometimes within a session. I had this client that was so stressed out about this legal case, right? And I'm like, okay, we're going to do it right now. We're going to sit and we're going to visualize into it. He gets a call like 20 minutes later that the legal dispute, whatever it was, had been completely resolved out of nowhere, but not really out of nowhere, because we created a new circumstance. Okay. So, and even if you don't know the science behind it, just try it. Just try for fun and see what happens. To just completely obsess about the life you want and feel into that. Ignore whatever else is going on. Okay? It's in the past. Okay? Just like everything, we only have right now. So let's create from right now. Because really anything could show up in your life at any moment that brings you so much joy. And then the other just question I got in one of my DMs is like this story, and again, they're all the same, but this long story about my ex coming back into my life, blah blah blah. Here's the thing: if an ex, whether it's a romantic relationship or like even with a friendship that just went south, or you've gone non-contact with someone for any reason, why would you want them? Like, I'm just asking. I'm not saying this is either way. Like, but ask yourself, would this be beneficial to my well-being, to my physical, spiritual, mental, emotional well-being? And if you're watching my content, if you're drawn to my content, you're probably someone that cares about self-improvement and wanting to evolve and being the highest best version of yourself, because that's all I teach. And so you probably have a growth mindset. And so does that person, because sometimes people just need to separate and evolve on their own. And then you randomly come back together, that one person reaches out and you've both done a lot of good inner work. I'm all for that. Go ahead. Yeah. But if it was an unhealthy dynamic and the person's like still the same, if you are saying you're still the same, you're worse. And I had a phase, it's kind of just ended actually, of like a year and a half of like everyone from my past coming back. And without exception, they were all worse. I can't think of anyone that circled back that was not bad. Like, and I just like, you've literally, I didn't say that to them, and I'm like, but they had gotten worse. And sometimes God, the universe will, whatever you call that higher power, will bring those people back into your life to show you like, hey, look how far you've come. Because a lot of people that have growth mindsets are really hard on themselves and are like, oh, I need to do better. So it's kind of like, oh, look how far you've come. I've said that to clients before. It's kind of like, okay, that person is still at that, or they have like another baby mama and this drama, and then look how far you've come. Look how far you've elevated, and they're still doing the same shit. And so if that's the case, if it's someone that's still doing the same shit, I would say leave it alone and take that as a way to celebrate. Like, oh, you know what? I've come really far, and I'm glad that I have attracted higher and better. And I'm going to wish this person the best because they certainly need it, and then just let it go. But if you're still holding on to something, sometimes I feel like when people ask this question, it's because they remember, or their nervous system is addicted to that honeymoon stage or that love bombing stage of the person that they thought they were getting into a relationship with, and they're focused on that, and instead of like who that person really is. So my love, if that's the case, you get to grieve that, but also that's a really good indication of what you deserve in a relationship. So that if that person presented whatever it was in the love bombing phase, let's say they were so generous or they were so this or that, you get to have that consistently. You get to have someone always be consistently generous and consistently a good communicator and safe and stable and secure, and keep their word, and keep like whatever they said that they were going to do. Because what I've noticed is like, oh, they were so great, and then they start making promises they're not going to keep, and I don't care if it's like I'll call you back and they don't do it. Red flag, red flag. Like, no. And so you get to have someone that's safe and stable and secure and constantly just does those things for you. Excuse me. And so that's the difference. And so, yeah, so that's what I would say to that. And again, to wrap that up, so if someone comes back into your life, I mean, it could be a client, it's kind of like, it needs to be like, do you have the growth mindset? Have you, otherwise, do you need to go back to the past? Do you need to go back to a version of yourself that you've healed from? Because a lot of times people come back into your life, especially if they are the same, which means they've gotten worse, and they're expecting that version of you. And I'm like, I kept saying, I'm like, that bitch is gone. Like 2018 Lauren is gone. Like, sorry, this is the upgraded version. I don't know if you could handle all this. And they probably can't, because they haven't done any work on themselves. So, and that's okay. Like I've had people circle back into my life that I'm like, oh God, like, because I'm remembering like the good times, and I'm like, I wish I could just I wish this person had worked on themselves, because they were fun. There were certain things about them that were fun, but they've gotten worse, and they just kind of suck, and you just have to grieve that, and know that there are people that can, make you feel good in the ways that felt good, but that can consistently show up for you. Let's see. Exactly. That's really nice. Oh, let me see. Hi, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Yay. So I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right. Excuse me. Wow, this really resonates. I'm so glad it does. And please let me know if you have any questions. I'm doing this right now after having to support a friend in crisis the past couple of, yeah. And like, I think it's wonderful that you're supporting a friend in crisis. And I also want you to pour into yourself. This is something I go over with, because I have a lot of clients that are for other people, is that you have to remember to like energetically take care of yourself as well. And so there's a few things that I always recommend. One is a meditation. It's just kind of like an energy clearing. Again, you shower, you brush your teeth. If you can do an energy clearing, or even if it's just like imagining a light from above and it's just cleansing, it's taking away anyone else's stress, anyone else's energy, because that is real. That is real, in like emergency room situations, because there's so much energy, or in airports, people are like flight attendants. You literally can carry other people's energy. You've been around people that were fighting, and then you leave and you're like, ooh, because that energy is still with you, and you need to cleanse it away from yourself and not hold on to it. Especially if you're empathic, you could accidentally hold on or absorb other people's energy when you don't mean to. So when you are helping other people, make sure that like you can be there for them, and just think of yourself as a channel for the love and the support or whatever that they need. And then that's it. So after your interaction with them, you're kind of clearing your energy with like a bright light or something like that, breathing deeply to reset your nervous system, and also just to relax. and then doing something nice for yourself, like whatever that is, whatever feels good. And like I'm talking about like going for a walk, taking a bath, doing something like that. I'm not talking about like eating 10 pounds of nachos, which I'm so down for nachos. Like, you guys like know that one of my cheat meals is Taco Bell. Not like go indulge if you want to, but I'm saying to not numb out, like something where you could be present in your body and feel good and take care of yourself, especially when you're taking care of other people. And really, that's really nice of you to do. And so, yeah, like, let me see if there's any more comments. That's an incredible reminder. Thank you so much. I'm going to cleanse with my, yes, exactly. Yes. Selenite is, if you're into, or connected with crystals, do that. So some people really energetically connect with crystals or sage window. Like when people come over to my place, like the 2 times a year that happens, but I'll like open whether, it, it's my energy, right? So at the end of the day, not that their energy is bad or anything, but just to clear out, because a lot of times but just because of what I do, if a friend comes over, it's because they want to like chat about something that's on their mind. And so you have to clear your energy of that on every level, physically, mentally, emotionally. So yeah, and I feel like there's one other thing I wanted to say about that. Oh yeah. So the other thing that I do, and I do this with every client, like when I do a live stream, I also send, or anyone that's going to watch a video or like watch this live stream at any point, I'm just like, I say this thing, I'm just like, I'm sending all of those people one in their lives that would bring them like the most amount of joy and peace. So because energy we're all energy, right? So if you can do that, I know that person feels it, and so you're healing them just by that, just by sending them, wishing them the best, and whatever healing energy that you want. Like I've had that happen so many times. Like, oh yeah, I just watched that whatever TikTok or watched one of your reels on YouTube, and I just kind of because my intention behind it was different. My intention behind it was to help you like heal, not even just like consciously, but on an energetic level. So if you say that if it's just about intention and sending the good energy out. But that is something I do. Energy is very real to me. That is something that is very different than I personally think than other coaches and therapists that I've worked with, or that like even the content. It's like, yes, I talk a lot about neuroscience and psychology, but the energy behind things is the most important. It is like the thing that will cure everything. Okay, so if we could start from an energetic basis, like if you're just logically in your head, like knowing facts doesn't cure shit. It doesn't help. I mean, knowing facts is important, and it can energetically shift things. It could like make a light bulb go off, but the energy, the shift always happens on an energetic level. Carl Jung, my books are kind of blurred, but like he's my favorite, and he's like the most legendary psychologist. He says this, he's like, everything is healed. I mean, the wounding is there, but it's all healed on a spiritual and energetic level. And he was the most cerebral, like intelligent man ever, but he even said that. Like, so if we can heal things on a spiritual, if we could get to that, then everything falls into place. That's why I was saying, all of a sudden your health is better. All of a sudden we start attracting these new type of people that are amazing. All of a sudden we have like the body composition that we want. It just happens. It's pretty awesome. Let's see. Oh, I love these tips so much. I'm definitely going to do this before bed. Yes, definitely before bed. So during bed, and when you wake up, I always say that because your brain is in a theta state. When your brain is in a theta state, it's more suggestible to, or it's open to, it's more open to suggestion. And so it will take whatever you say. So you could say like, okay, I am in radiant health and I'm a multimillionaire. And your brain is like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. So it starts thinking from that place and creating a new reality from that place. So definitely when you go to bed and when you wake up, to send her energetic support. Yes. And everyone in your life. And that's another thing. I always do that. So when I'm going to bed, or even just throughout my day, I'm like, I'm sending that person love. If someone will, or I'll see a comment. And sometimes it's like a really rude comment that someone like puts in my social media, and I'm like, I'm just gonna send that person a lot of love because they clearly need it. But especially like my clients or anyone that watches my content, I'm just energetically sending you the highest and best. But yeah, doing that for people in your life. And another thing that I do is, because your mind is so powerful and you are the only person that could create the reality that you want, as I say, no matter what energy is coming towards me. So say someone's sending me a lot of love, or they're sending me a lot of whatever, they're projecting their crap onto me. Whatever energy comes towards me, it's transmuted into love and peace. So you could be hating on me, again, like, I specialize in narcissistic abuse because I've dealt with a lot of narcissists and they're still trying to get back in my life. So I always say, like, no matter what kind of energy coming towards me, it all gets transmuted into so much love, so much prosperity, so much peace into my life. So that is another thing. Whenever I instruct people to do that, they get really good results. So anyway, I can't believe I was on for an hour. I didn't think I would go this long, but it's been so fun hanging out with you guys, Kaylin. And yay, like, I hope I'm pronouncing Yai. I don't know. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Again, it's nice to meet you. My name is Lauren. And I hope to see you again. I am going to start getting more regular with these live streams. I always, anyone that watches my content, or if you're a client or course student of mine, one of the things that I always really encourage you to do is get out of your comfort zone. And for me, doing these live streams or just going live is very uncomfortable for me. And there was a lot of cringy moments at the beginning of this. And you know what? I'm just, it's going to be what it is. And I'm going to get less cringy. But more than anything, I hope that this was informative and helpful. And please let me know if there's any other questions that you have. I'll answer them in the next live stream. And we'll just keep going. Okay? This is fun. Thank you so much, Lauren. I hope to catch you again. This was so helpful. Oh, see that makes me so happy. Like, if it's helpful to you, yes, you are so welcome. And I'm going to get better about, like, announcing when I'm going live and maybe having, like, a routine around it, like once, twice, however many days a week. And but yeah, let me find that flow. But I promise to show up here at least once a week. I did this last week. I got to call myself out on it. But and because I missed last week, I will go live either tomorrow or Sunday to make up for it. Okay. All right, guys, have a good night and weekend, and I love you, and I'll talk to you again soon.